Now, how would you feel about waiting a whole year, a year and a half, 2 years, or even longer for a hospital operation, or even just an appointment for an assessment by a specialist? Well, that is the situation that at least 300,000 patients are in as the NHS struggles to get through an enormous backlog of people needing treatment as we come out of the pandemic. Now, before coronavirus, only 1,600 people had been waiting more than a year for surgery. Now, I don't think anyone should have to wait that long, but that is a fraction of the figure now, and the numbers are only going to rise. These are real people truly suffering with conditions that are getting worse by the day. I asked patients to get in touch with their stories, and what I've heard has been truly shocking. A newborn baby with a hernia who will have to wait at least 40 weeks for surgery. An elderly man with a life-threatening heart condition told he needed surgery within months, still waiting a year later. His operation has been cancelled 4 times. Each time, he's had to isolate for a week in advance of the scheduled procedure and undergo multiple pre-operative assessments. On the most recent occasion, his operation was cancelled an hour before he was due to leave home for the hospital. I also heard of a 4-year-old boy with suspected autism who faces a 2 to 3 year wait for an NHS assessment. So by the time he gets it, he'll be 7 years old, critical years of early development lost. Earlier this week, Health Secretary Sajid Javid admitted that the waiting list for treatment could hit 14 million. It's already at 6 million, that's up from 4.4 million before the pandemic. The Health Secretary announced some new targets, including what he called an ambition to eliminate waiting lists of more than a year by March 2025. In other words, in 3 years' time. As for waits of 2 years or longer, he wants to see the back of those by this summer. Now, I think these figures are truly shocking, though in a sense hardly surprising when so much routine healthcare stopped during the pandemic. I think we should be up in arms about it because it didn't need to get this bad. Of course, the pandemic was going to cause some delays while the NHS focused on the emergency, but routine treatment didn't need to judder to a halt in the way that it did. In fact, the government did the right thing by taking over the private sector, building Nightingale hospitals and issuing a national appeal for retired healthcare workers to come forward. Problem was it then didn't use all of this extra capacity. So the Nightingale hospitals and the private healthcare facilities, for which we paid billions, by the way, just lay vacant. And many of the retired healthcare professionals who generously volunteered to help were not actually called forward. And now the reality is that the NHS just cannot cope with all the pent-up demand. And with the best will in the world, right now, it cannot provide the quality of care that all patients deserve within a reasonable time frame. Now, that doesn't mean that we should dismantle the NHS, and it's certainly not the fault of doctors, nurses and other healthcare professionals, and indeed some managers who do an amazing job all day, every day, trying to see as many patients as they can. Probably the question of fault at this point is less important than what we do about it.